Hello, this is Randall with the Philippines Project, and I'm here to tell you about a story that actually happened to me in Manila. I'm not really that proud of, okay? But I want to tell you a story about one of my first encounters in the Manila Airport, and it really kind of pissed me off, to be honest. So, and I know if you're in the Philippines or you're an expat here, or if you're planning, you probably run into a situation like this, or if you visited, you might have run into a situation like this as well. Okay, so I was at the Manila airport. We had actually traveled from Bali on a late flight. Um, I think the flight was supposed to leave like 11:20 at night, and I'm not even sure we left at 11:20. And we had, if you've been to Indonesia, I've only been this one time. It was very delightful, by the way, but yeah, through the airport, they really put you through your paces. They checked your Vax cards, your passport, your boarding pass. I think we went through 4 different metal detectors, and it was late, and we were exhausted by the time that we got on Air Asia, and it was 11:30, 11:45, maybe 12 o'clock by the time we actually left the tarmac at Bali. So, we'd been up all day. And Bali was great. We stayed in our room. We did some details. We tried to get organized and just getting ready for the flight. We extended our room to like 6:30 because from Ubud in Bali, the town that we were staying in, it's like an hour and a half drive all the way to the airport there in Bali. So, we got ready super early. I just have to do that for my own peace of mind to get ready. So we did all that. We got in the car. We got kind of stranded in Ubud for a while, probably sat in town for like 40 minutes. But long story short, we got to the airport. We got through security, like I said. We got on the airplane, and it was very late. So, we're already kind of tired. There wasn't many people on the flight, so I was able to get 3 seats by myself, and Flora had 3 seats by herself. So that was nice. So we land in Manila, and we go through, and I'll have to, really, I'll have to say, if you're going to travel to Manila, 2 things. One, they pretty much got their stuff straight there in Manila as far as, the e-arrival card we had to have. We had the barcode. We were prepared. My wife had took care of all of that stuff, which usually has always fallen on me. But I thought, well, she likes to be on her phone all the time. She's a smart girl. I said, I'm going to let her do those things because, to be honest, sometimes, sometimes I don't trust myself with those decisions. And we always look through, both of us, we always look through everything that we did, every detail of every plan, and we try to, put 2 sets of eyes on it to get all the way through. And we got to Manila, and they were very efficient. Number 2, it was, 3:20 in the morning. So, not a lot of people flying in at that time. We breezed through the baggage claim like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we show our barcode, we did our whatever other deals there was. There wasn't many. We went through immigration, asked you a couple questions, we go. And so our whole goal was to get to Manila Airport about 3:30, which we did, and get through security because I had a friend of mine that was coming out on an 8 o'clock flight. So, and I'd been messing with his travel accommodations, and I helped him, book his flight and stuff like. He'd never been to the Philippines. He'd never been on a commercial flight. So, I thought, well, I'm going to help the guy. He was an acquaintance, really nice guy, really wanted to come to the Philippines. So I was trying to help him out, and that's just my nature to do that kind of stuff. Doesn't make me a great guy. Sometimes, sometimes it's. It can be somewhat stressful. Like, you get through all of your travel accommodation, and you make somebody else's, which, it wasn't that much of a bother. But by the time, we got to the airport, it's 3:30. We're sitting right past baggage claim. We've claimed our baggage. We're right there, right there at Terminal 3 before you go out. And so, we realize we've got about a 5-hour wait, which is no big deal. But we sat there for quite a while, and we thought we're going to try to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I don't sleep on planes. I hope I can change that in the future. I'm going to try to. But we were pretty tired, so, and nothing really is open at that time of the morning that I knew about. So there we are, and somebody, if you're going to get some coffee, you're going to get, some kind of breakfast, not only you have to wait, but you have to send somebody, designate somebody, one of the two of you, if there's two traveling with you, to watch the baggage, because we had quite a bit. And then the other one will venture off and find the coffee or McDonald's or whatever. And I'm not super familiar with Terminal 3 or any of the terminals. Well, Terminal 4, not much to be familiar, because it's all grouped in one place. That's a whole other story within itself. But Terminal 3, I was a little unsure of, right? So at some point, I had to have something. I mean, I was just, just almost, you know that feeling when you're just so tired, and you've been through a lot of kind of stressful things, and you almost, no sleep, and you get that vibrating feeling almost. You just get, the jitters kind of, and at least I do anyway. So, I'm in that situation, and my wife, of course, she can take anything. She can fall asleep sitting up, and that's great. But anyway, so I was selected to go off and get some coffee. Well, it was probably 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I looked around a little bit, and right there, where they sell the SIM cards, and there's the money changers, and there's the ATMs and all that stuff, right before you walk out to get your taxi. Excuse me. I looked around, and there was a coffee place there, and I'm not going to mention the name. I may put a coffee stand up in the background of this video. If you're looking at that, that's not the stand. So anyway, I go to this stand that's very close by, and so I get to the counter at this stand, and there's some people sitting over on the side, and they're drinking their coffee, whatever. And I think most of them had like a frozen coffee, and they're sugar loaded and all that. That's great, but it's not my thing. My wife's fine with that, but she wanted some hot coffee with 3 cream and 3 sugars. Good, not a problem. I look back there, and they've got this big coffee brewer. It's like an old-fashioned, it's got you can tell where the coffee's at, and it's just got the little spigot. It's not a, they're not making espresso back there. So anyway, I thought, well, it's coffee. No other place is open. So I walk up to the counter, and I order 2 coffees, 1 black, 1 with 3 creams and 3 sugars. And the young guy, he's probably in his 20s, he goes back and, give me 1 second. So anyway, he turns around, and he starts making the coffee, and I'm just kind of looking around, not really paying attention. And so he finally brings the coffee to me after a couple of minutes, and 1 coffee sitting here, it's a high counter, 1 sitting here. He had marked which one was hers and which one was mine. So I pick the coffees up, and I walk, and I notice my lid's a little bit not on there tight, and you get that anywhere. You got to fasten down that lid, right? Well, I couldn't get it fastened down, so okay, I'll be careful. So I walk over to where my wife's at. She was already asleep. She's got her hands around all the baggage, and she falls asleep easy. So I sit down, and she kind of wakes up a little bit, and so anyway, I hand her coffee. I said, "This is yours. It's got 3 creams, 3 sugars. This is mine." And so we sat down and started to try to enjoy the coffee, right? Real-time video. I tell you what, for some reason my throat is dry. So anyway, she opens hers up and she looks at it and maybe stirs it or something, sips a little bit on it. And, she'd been on the airplane. She's wearing a really nice pink hoodie, pullover hoodie. It's got like Adidas or Nike or something on the front of it. Really nice. We bought not too long before before the flight, or maybe a few months before. So anyway, and so I pop my top, and before my mouth even gets to take a sip, I can smell the smell of old coffee. Now, if you're my age or older, or you've lived in America for a long time, we didn't used to have good coffee. We had like Folgers. It was percolated or drip coffee, Mr. Coffee type stuff, and it's really compared to what we have today. You can get on your everyday Keurig machine at home, K-Pot or whatever you want to call it. Their coffee's pretty good. Well, this was the old style coffee. And not only was the old style coffee, I could tell by the smell, and I bet you can too, it'll bring it to your memory, of coffee that's been sitting for God knows how many hours, right? And, I used to work with my dad at the office, and his office. He was an insurance agent. And we'd put on a pot of coffee in the morning, and of course that was weak coffee. You drink it throughout the morning, but there came a point in time when you couldn't drink that coffee anymore because it was burned or spoiled, whatever you want to call it. But it had a certain look, like you look down into it, and it's just like a little bit of oil or something floating on top, or something had some sort of film, and the smell of it was a dead giveaway. Ugh, I just can't. Just even now, I knew I wasn't even going to try it. Well, I thought. So I took a sip of it. I just had to set it down. And I'm telling you, that kind of stuff like that just bothers me. Well, I'd been up all night, so it was a long trip, and what are we going to do? So I asked her how her coffee was, and I sat there for a while, and I just set my coffee down. I was telling her, I said, this isn't any good. We paid 180 pesos, and I can't drink the coffee. So we're kind of discussing it, and she said, well, you know how it is here in the Philippines. And I said, yeah, I do, but I also know I spent 180 pesos, and I didn't get anything worth drinking. So that was a little bit upset. But if you follow my videos, I don't rant and rave, and I don't do that in person. I really try to always present a positive spin on about everything. Well, this was a little difficult after being up all night. So my wife, she was sipping on her coffee, and I just had set mine down. I'm just looking around, and all of a sudden she goes, oh! And I looked over, and she had spilled that coffee all the way down her really nice pink pullover sweatshirt hoodie. And I thought, that is a really nice hoodie. And because the lids, they were not even the correct size. That's what the problem was. I told you mine wouldn't fit exactly right, but I always take mine off anyway, and I'll sip it that way. Well, she didn't. Well, she looks down, and she's got coffee all over. Well, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Now, I wasn't going to go in there and start yelling and screaming or anything like that. When I tell you the end result of this, you think, well, you didn't really get very mad. But for me, I don't know whether my comment to him was inappropriate or not. I know, we're guests here in this country. I'm a very polite individual anyway, and I really feel for other people, even the guy behind the counter. He was a young guy. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but so I said, this is it. I said, I'm not going to sit here and pay 180 pesos, which is not that much money. I get that. It's not like I can't afford it. That's not the point. I couldn't drink mine. Her lid wasn't good enough, and she spilled hers all the way down her sweatshirt. And probably the only reason she could drink it is because they put all that cream and sugar in there, so it wouldn't matter if it's gasoline. It's going to taste like something, you know. So anyway, I said, I'm not, you know, I said, I got to at least say something. So I picked up both cups of coffee. I said, she said, well, they won't give you your money back. I said, I don't care. The money's not the issue. And so I was pretty hacked off. But, you know, I'll watch. I don't stomp over there. I'm not displaying my face as if I'm angry. I set the 2 cups up there, and the little guy comes up there, and his head just barely pops over the top. Again, he's like 20 years old. And, you know, and there's a language barrier too, obviously. So I set it up there and I said, we can't drink this coffee. And he goes, he just kind of stared at me. And he wasn't like, he didn't have a malicious stare. He kind of had a blank stare. And I said, can you do anything? Can you get us fresh coffee? You know, if you can get us fresh coffee, that'll be, you know, I'll even wait. No big deal. And he just kept staring at me, and he said, well, he turned around to his little pot. He said, it's brewed coffee. I said, I know it's brewed coffee, but it's old coffee. How many hours has it been sitting there? And of course, I'm speaking English. He's got, you know, he's in his head, he knows Tagalog, right? So he's still just looking around like, I don't know what to do. I said, is there a manager around? He just kind of looked around, you know, and by the time I was just like, they're not going to give me my money back. They're not going to give me any kind of satisfaction. You know, I can't tell you the thoughts I had in my head, you know, at that point. But I was really disappointed in the service that I was receiving. I really wasn't receiving any service. So at the end of it, I set the coffee up there, and I looked him square in the eye. I said, and I've never done anything like this before. I said, this coffee is horrible. And I said, I paid for it. I can't drink it. It's horrible. And I turned around and I walked off and I went and sat down. And that's outside of the Filipino way or Filipino culture, you know. And of course, you know, nobody called the cops or anything like that. But I was really disappointed in that. And I did the video because what would you have done? You know, and I'm sincerely seeking some advice here. And I've had some other thoughts since then, even that, you know, right then. But what would you have done? You know, and if you're an expat here, you've been in these situations so many times and probably got really thick skin, and that's great. I do too. I always try to look on the bright side of each situation, no matter what. But you know, I felt like I failed at that point. So I sat back down. And again, if you're going to come to this country, this is something you're going to face. That's the main reason that I wanted to make this video, is because if you're coming to this country, maybe the first time or a visit, you're going to find things like this that are going to happen, and you need to be prepared to deal with it. Maybe a little bit better than I did, you know. But I told my wife, I said, what am I supposed to do? After I'd already done all this, I sat down. I said, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to say, thank you, sir, you know, thank you, appreciate you, and smile and walk away? And I don't know. If some Filipinos are watching this channel, you know, type your comment down below. I really would be interested to know what's the proper way to handle that situation. I know in America, and we're not in America. I'm not in America now. But, you know, we could take the coffee back and say, hey, this stuff isn't any good. They're going to give you free coffee or they'll refund your money pretty much. And you get crappy service there too. I mean, it happens. It's not like this is the only place in the world where your service is, you know, the service is not up to par. It happens in America too. So I had some thoughts after I sat down. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, he doesn't speak the language. That is a barrier. And I know he could see what's going on. You don't have to speak that, right? I mean, the guy brings the coffee back, you can't drink it. You know, they didn't offer a refund. They didn't offer to brew any new coffee. And he knew that I was dissatisfied with it, and I just set both cups up there and left him. So he knew what was going on. The language barrier wasn't that much, but I think as a young guy, he was in a situation that he did not know how to deal with, hadn't been trained to deal with, and hadn't been prepared to deal with a customer complaint like that. Basically, all he knew, and I've heard in the Philippines, I think my throat is as dry as sand. In the Philippines, if you give somebody's money back, it comes out of your own paycheck. I don't know whether it's true or not. Some of you Filipinos could tell me, whether that happens or not. So anyway, that's something that, if he gave the money back, he may have to take it out of his own pocket. And the poor guy's not making anything anyway, really, not really. He's glad to have that job, and it's a good job for him, but, he can't afford to have stuff taken back out of his paycheck, and I don't know. But that was one thing that I considered, and his training wasn't there. So, I guess in the big scheme of things, I understand both sides. I understand why I was upset. Again, I didn't show any aggression. I didn't show anything like that, but just an interesting little thing. And I think after coming from Bali's top notch. I mean, the service is fantastic, over the top, smile, make sure you're satisfied, food is cheap, beautiful, beautiful food. I'll do a video on this one cafe. I bet we ate it 12 times just because it was beautiful, and the price and the staff was excellent. But this poor fella got an American that had been up, for 18 hours, and I didn't get a good cup of coffee. So if you have a comment on the video, I encourage you to put down your comment on what you would do. Give me some advice on what I should have done, how I should have handled it. And this is Randall with the Philippines Project. I'll see you next time. Appreciate you watching. I'm back in the Philippines and I should have a lot more videos to come. Appreciate you guys, and you guys have a great rest of the day, or wherever you're at, a good night. Thanks.